Welcome back to another episode of the Coins Numismatic Series. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of Washington quarters, and not just any quarters. We're talking about three standout issues that continue to capture the imagination of collectors across the country and around the world. These coins may look like the ones you've seen in your change 100 times before, but trust me, the stories behind them, their production, their errors, and their values will leave you amazed. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly why these coins stand out, what makes them special, and how they fit into the larger story of American coin collecting. So, let's jump right into our first coin, 1979 D Washington Quarter Dollar Coin. The 1979 D Washington Quarter is an essential piece in the history of U.S. coinage, minted at the Denver Mint during an era of transition in the late 1970s. This coin carries not only the familiar profile of George Washington but also embodies the economic and numismatic landscape of its time. The design is the same as it has been since 1932, when the Washington Quarter was introduced to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. John Flanagan portrait of Washington graces the obverse, while the reverse features a bold heraldic eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch, symbols of American strength and peace. By 1979, the Washington Quarter had already become a staple of daily commerce, but certain factors make this Denver minted version particularly intriguing. In terms of mintage, the 1979 D Quarter was produced in massive numbers. Hundreds of millions were struck at the Denver facility. At first glance, one might think such high production would diminish collector interest. After all, a coin minted in such large quantities should be easy to find. However, the reality is that collectors often seek out not just rarity in numbers but also rarity in condition, as well as notable errors or unusual characteristics. One of the defining features of the 1979 D Washington Quarter lies in its potential for error varieties. Among the most sought after are off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and double die obverse. These minting mistakes transform an ordinary coin into a highly prized collectible. For example, a 1979 D Quarter with a dramatic off-center strike can command significant premiums in the marketplace, with collectors paying hundreds of dollars depending on the severity of the error. Similarly, double dies, though less common in this year compared to other issues, remain of strong interest to specialists who focus on die varieties. Another important factor to consider with the 1979 D Quarter is condition rarity. Because this coin was heavily circulated, finding examples in pristine mint state condition is surprisingly challenging. The highest graded specimens, particularly those graded MS67 or MS68 by PCGS or NGC, are extremely scarce and can fetch impressive sums at auction. While a worn example may only be worth its face value of 25 cents, a top-graded mint state coin might sell for several $100s or more. This disparity between face value and collector value illustrates the fascinating dynamics of numismatics. The market value of the 1979 D Quarter largely depends on its condition and whether it has any special attributes. A circulated example will typically remain at face value, but uncirculated specimens, particularly with strong luster and few contact marks, command significant interest. As of today, some of the finest examples certified in the highest grades have sold for upwards of $1,000 at auction, showing just how desirable condition rarity can be. Collectors are drawn to this coin not only because of its place in the Washington series but also because it represents the late 1970s, a period when coin collecting was experiencing renewed energy. The silver era was long past, but error coins, condition rarities, and the general nostalgia for coins from this era make the 1979 D Quarter a great addition to any collection. It's the kind of coin that may not appear extraordinary at first glance but reveals its significance upon closer inspection. For many collectors, the thrill lies in the hunt, sifting through rolls of quarters to find that perfect mint state gem or stumbling across an unusual minting error. The 1979 D Washington Quarter delivers on that thrill and continues to remind us that even modern-era coins have stories worth telling and collecting. 1965 Washington Quarter Dollar Coin. The 1965 Washington Quarter holds a unique and monumental place in U.S. coinage history. This is not just another date in the Washington Quarter series. It's the year that marked the dramatic end of the silver quarter and the beginning of a new era in American coinage. Prior to 1965, quarters were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper, giving them intrinsic value that often exceeded their face value during times of rising silver prices. But by the early 1960s, silver was becoming more expensive, and the government faced a critical problem: people were hoarding silver coins, pulling them out of circulation because their melt value was higher than 25 cents. In response, the U.S. Mint made a groundbreaking decision. Beginning in 1965, quarters would no longer be made of silver but instead of a clad composition, outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change fundamentally reshaped American coinage and makes the 1965 Washington quarter a transitional piece of immense importance. The design remained unchanged. John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington continued to appear on the obverse, and the eagle on the reverse stood proudly as before. However, beneath that familiar design, everything was different. For the first time in U.S. history, the quarter carried no silver content. This change caused confusion at the time, as people noticed the new clad coins had a different color and sound compared to their silver predecessors. Mintage of the 1965 quarter was huge, with well over 1 billion coins struck. This was intentional, as the mint wanted to flood the market with clad quarters to quickly replace the silver issues that were being hoarded. Because of this enormous production, 1965 quarters are not scarce in general circulation. However, certain varieties and high-grade examples hold special value. One of the most famous aspects of the 1965 quarter is the existence of transitional errors. During the switch from silver to clad, a very small number of quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets intended for 1964 dated coins. These error coins, known as 1965 silver quarters, are incredibly rare and command astonishing prices when they appear at auction. Depending on their condition, they can sell for thousands of dollars. This makes the 1965 quarter an exciting coin to search for, as it's possible, though highly unlikely, that an unsuspecting person could find a silver example mixed in with regular clad coins. Even beyond the rare silver transitional error, the 1965 Washington quarter holds appeal in high-grade condition. Because these coins were heavily circulated and often poorly struck, finding pristine mint state examples with sharp details and strong luster is difficult. Coins graded MS-66 or higher are scarce, and registry set collectors pay strong premiums for them. The top-graded coins can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on market demand. From a collector's perspective, the 1965 Washington quarter represents both the end of one era and the beginning of another. It is a symbol of economic necessity and practical change in U.S. coinage, but it also embodies nostalgia for the silver era that had just ended. For many numismatists, owning a 1965 quarter is essential, not because it is rare in itself but because of the historic story it tells. The coin has also inspired countless conversations among collectors about value versus history. While the average 1965 quarter in circulated condition may still only be worth its face value, its significance far outweighs its monetary worth. It's a reminder that sometimes, what makes a coin truly valuable is not its rarity or price tag but its place in the broader narrative of American history. 1992 D Washington Quarter Dollar Coin. The 1992 D Washington quarter may seem like a relatively modern issue, but it has a surprising number of features that make it interesting to collectors. Minted at the Denver Mint during the early 1990s, this coin represents a period when coin collecting was beginning to experience renewed enthusiasm thanks to state quarter programs on the horizon and a growing awareness of modern minting errors and varieties. Like its predecessors, the 1992 D features John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle reverse. At this point, the Washington design had been in continuous use for 60 years, making it one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history. However, changes were on the horizon, as the Mint was preparing for the 1999 launch of the 50-state quarters program, which would dramatically transform the series. The mintage of the 1992 D Washington quarter was substantial, with hundreds of millions of coins struck. This means that circulated examples are extremely common and worth only their face value. But as with other modern quarters, the true interest lies in condition rarity and mint errors. High-grade mint state examples of the 1992 D quarter are challenging to find. Because these coins were produced in massive quantities and intended for circulation, many show contact marks, weak strikes, or poor luster. Coins that have been preserved in pristine condition, particularly those graded MS-67 or higher, are scarce and command significant premiums. Registry-set collectors, who strive to assemble the finest possible collections of each date and mintmark, eagerly seek out these top-grade specimens. Some of the finest known 1992 D quarters have sold for several $100s at auction, and even more in cases where they represent the highest graded example. The 1992 D quarter is also notable for certain error varieties. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, and double die obverse or reverses are known for this issue and can be valuable depending on the severity and clarity of the error. Additionally, some coins show die cracks or cuds, which, while not as dramatic as other errors, are still popular among variety collectors. Another fascinating aspect of the 1992 D quarter is its place in the lead-up to the state quarters era. For decades, collectors had grown accustomed to the same Washington design, and coins like the 1992 D represent the final years of what many consider the classic Washington quarter, before the series was revitalized with new designs. As a result, these coins hold nostalgic value, serving as reminders of the pre-state quarter years when the eagle reverse still dominated pocket change. Market values for the 1992 D quarter vary widely depending on condition. A circulated coin will only be worth its face value, but uncirculated and certified examples in high grades are desirable. Top-graded specimens can sell for hundreds of dollars, with even more interest if the coin features a notable mint error. For the average collector, searching rolls of quarters for high-grade 1992 D examples remains a fun and affordable way to engage with the hobby. Ultimately, the 1992 D Washington quarter is a coin that may appear ordinary but holds significant interest once examined closely. It's a coin that ties together the long legacy of the Washington design while foreshadowing the revolutionary changes that were about to transform U.S. coinage. For collectors who value modern issues, the 1992 D is a cornerstone, offering both affordability for beginners and rarity challenges for advanced numismatists. So there you have it, the top 3 Washington quarters that every collector should know about. From the transitional 1965 clad quarter, which changed the very composition of American coinage, to the error-prone and condition-rare 1979 D, and finally the often overlooked but highly collectible 1992 D, each of these coins tells a story that goes far beyond the 25 cents stamped on its surface. Whether you're just starting your collection or you're a seasoned numismatist, these coins remind us of why collecting is so exciting. It's not just about the metal, it's about history, rarity, and the stories these small pieces of change continue to tell. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Washington quarters, make sure to subscribe to the Coins Numismatic Series, leave a like, and share this video with fellow collectors. There's always another coin, another story, and another treasure waiting to be uncovered.